What's up, everybody? We've got another episode of the Even Your Dynasty show. What's going on, guys?
Long time no see, fellas.
Yeah. I appreciate everybody joining us today. Sorry, not as much content this week. Had a sick little one at home, so it was a very light week as far as this is concerned, but was still able to be free tonight, so we're going to get that going. We're going to, obviously, for those of you that are joining us today, we do have the giveaway. We're going to do the second one at the end of the show, so make sure all you have to do for that is be subscribed to the channel, drop a comment in the live chat. That will get you entered. I do believe you have to stick around, though, for it, so it is going to be closer to 10 o'clock-ish, probably towards the tail end of this live show, that we do the giveaway and the drawing. So make sure you're around probably like come 9:45. If you do bail out, try and come back to make sure you get entered for that. So I will remind everybody a few times during the video or during the live stream, but yeah, that's all you got to do.
Hey, sorry you didn't get the black hoodie memo. Me and Ricky decided to match.
You know, I have one in the other room. I could totally just bust that thing on and just be like, screw it.
Although he and I are in a damn typhoon over here, so that's why.
You know, we got hit with some stuff up here, but somehow my power stayed on the whole time.
That's an that's an everyday thing for you up there, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So but yeah, so it's been a pretty light week as far as news goes. Obviously today they did have the news that the Giants reached agreements with Forever Giant Austin Warren and also Mike Yastrzemski as far as their avoiding arbitration and everything. They didn't non-tender anybody, so Wade, Rogers, Doval, they're all gonna get tendered contracts. We'll see if they reach agreements before arbitration. It doesn't really change anything as far as what we've talked about in the past. They're all still non-tender or still trade candidates. So, we'll see what goes on there. But the corresponding moves, Kaiwei Tang got DFA'd. I think that was pretty easy one to see coming. Same with Ethan Small.
Thank God.
Yeah. Not surprising really on either of those fronts. So their 40-man still stands at 39. They do have room for that pending Kim signing, but none of us are going to be surprised when it happens. But
I'm telling you, it's imminent.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that's probably going to happen, but
has Joseph King ever been wrong? Or Joseph Kim, whatever his name is, have you ever been wrong?
Yeah. Joseph Kim.
Well, when you confirm a player to 4 different teams, you got a pretty good opportunity that one of them ends up being right.
But no, I mean,
just delete the other tweets.
Right. But no, like you said, but everyone that was tendered or given a contract and wasn't kicked to the streets for this offs. I mean, we all kind of expected it, and like I told you guys with those, at least it was either you don't tender them one and they become a free agent, or you trade them, and that's what I'm pretty confident is going to happen with at least 2 of them. So, but don't worry, Nick Bovey, you're not going to get complaining out of me, bud.
Yeah, I think Dan's going to complain. Ricky might have something else to say about it, but I don't think Dan's going to complain.
Yeah, if we're being honest here, I'm definitely the bigger Yaz hater. Not towards the signing as much as I am like just get him out of here, cut bait, get some of Farhan's dead weight off the roster. That's just where I'm at. It's not on the Bailey level hate though.
Yeah. My rage is more directed towards Wilmer Flores, so that's where my energy goes.
Yeah, I mean, well, and we can talk about a little. We've done it a little bit. We can talk a little bit about Yaz just in general. Like, I think the kind of the misconception out there is that a lot of us think that he's just like a bad player, and he's really not. Like, he's a class act. He's a likable person. He has had plenty of like cool moments as a Giant. He's had, he's a good defensive player. He's a high floor, low ceiling player. Like, that's just really what he is. And he's going to be 34 next season. Like, that's where it's just unless this team was ready to win right now, like if we had a 90-win roster, I'd be like, yeah, it's a bigger risk to move off a Yaz and go to a Luis Matos or a Grant McCrae or something like that. Like that's a big risk at that point. That might be the difference between you making the playoffs and missing the playoffs. But I mean, it's an 80-win team. Like they've won 81, 79, and 80 wins 3 years. What are we losing here if we move off Yaz? We might lose 70 or win 76 games next year. Like who gives a crap at that point? So it's about trying to figure out what you have for the future, and we'll see. Maybe they trade him, maybe they hold on to him. I do think it kind of buys them time for a guy like Luis Matos. I wouldn't be shocked if he's going to be the weak side of the platoon, and they're just kind of holding out hope that he shows enough that they feel comfortable to move off Yaz sooner than later, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're all in agreement on that. It's never been us saying that, Yaz in particular is a bad player by any means. It's just there comes a point in time where you got to make an effort to improve your team. Yaz isn't getting you over the hump. You've seen that year in and year out. He is what, Will Clark's comments describe. It's him to a T. If you haven't seen it, I recommend that you do. But yeah, I mean, it's time, if there's an offer available and you can trade him, get out of that 9.25 mil, and you can apply that towards a potential upgrade elsewhere. I'm all for it. That's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with Yaz is just how, like many other people in the Giants over the last, say, 3 years, have just been totally miscast in the role that they should be in. But you throw a guy like Yaz on a little bit more competitive team, like I've mentioned before, the Red Sox, for instance, he probably plays really well with that right field out there, gives them a little bit of power, is probably only starting, maybe 2 games a week there, might be a platoon depending on who the Red Sox move off of. But that's a team where you could see him being a really nice bench piece for them and a lot of contending teams. Honestly, it's just when the Giants are constantly miscasting these, role players in starting roles, and we have to see them over 130, 140 games, it gets very frustrating. So, yeah, like Rob says, Yankees too, with that short porch. Like he'd probably have a great season in a part-time role and would probably be putting up just as good of numbers in with less at bats, So I think that's what it really comes down to, and really just opening spots up for guys like you said, like, Matos, potentially Grant McCrae, some of these guys. You got to see what you have in these guys and give them a real fair shot, not these little week-long sample sizes.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. And I do think, I mentioned it in the past. I feel like Yaz would be a way better player and fit for the Yankees than Verdugo is. Like, better defender. He's going to probably pop a few, twice as many home runs as Verdugo does. And, I don't think you're really losing that much with Verdugo. So,
yeah, I think the biggest thing with Yaz in particular is what both of you just touched on, where he in his role and his production and his style of play would be great on like one of those playoff contention teams where he can be the number 4 outfielder. The problem is you're trying to have that type of player as your everyday starter in San Francisco with what's already a pretty mediocre roster. And that's where, our feelings are coming from, where it's like, you've seen his peak, what you have in him. And that does not get you to be a winning caliber team, especially with the roster around him. And that's why it's time to, upgrade that position for sure. And like, Nick just put in there, Wilyer Abreu. I mean, I put that on X the other day. I would take Abreu over Yaz in a heartbeat. I would love that move.
Yeah. I like Wilyer Abreu. I mentioned him last season, I think. Might have been last offseason when we were looking at like different people they could maybe trade some from their young pitching to try and see, a young outfielder that they could try and pull up. And I know Abreu was one of the names I kind of floated out there just because it is an intriguing bat. Like he's got a good amount of power. It just would be a decent fit there. But now the thing is if you make that trade, it kind of is a vote of no confidence for guys like Luis Matos and Grant McRae, because you know Breu is obviously more proven at the major league level, so you're gonna probably make that trade and just immediately put him in left field or something, and then move Ramos to right, and then there's your outfield. They're all young guys, they're all like under contract for extended periods, like that's kind of what you do. Like that's what you're saying if you make that move, which I'm not opposed to it. It's just that's kind of the reality of what it would be, in my opinion.
For sure.
So, and then Ricky, you mentioned there's a few names of people that did get non-tendered this, or today. So he had a few people in mind that might be decent fits for the Giants. I'll let you go because I did not really dig through that today. I hadn't really looked at the list yet. So,
not a huge list of like super quality guys, obviously, because these are guys that teams didn't want back on, or roughly around the same amount of money they're making the last couple of seasons. But, both some hitting and some pitching out there that, these aren't guys that you're going to plug into necessarily like full-time starting roles. But one guy Dan mentioned earlier, Jordan Romano, closer of the Blue Jays. This guy's been super consistent throughout his entire career, 2.9 ERA. Last year was a down year, but he was hurt most of the season, only made 15 appearances. So his ERA was a little bit inflated. But, I mean, if you can get a guy like that on a pretty nice little prove-it deal and plug him in the back end of the pen and, you still go in and add a guy like Tanner Scott or somebody via trade in the back end of your pen, that could be a huge strength this year. So he's a guy that would be good to keep an eye out on and see where he ends up going. A couple other names, Jacob Webb of the Orioles. He's been a really solid bullpen piece for them the last 2 years. I believe the last 2 seasons combined just slightly above a 3 ERA. So he's another nice piece that a lot of people were honestly surprised that the Orioles let go. Cal Quantrill, I know he's been on the Rockies like last year, so can't really take his numbers too serious out there. But he's been a pretty solid starting pitcher over the last few years. He was pretty good in Cleveland. He's a guy you could maybe plug in the back end of your rotation for some depth. He wouldn't cost you too much. And then on the hitting side, funny enough, one guy that got non-tendered today was actually Connor Joe. Forever Giant. I know that's a fun one to talk about, but he could be a solid, bench piece, a guy you could plug in part-time at first base if you don't end up getting a bigger name there, and just be more of in a platoon role. And I mean, he was not bad for the Pirates at all for most of his tenure there. Just last year, he really fell off later in the season. But you have him, and then one other guy that a lot of people probably aren't talking about is George Valera of the Guardians. I don't know how familiar you guys are with him, but he's a former top 100 prospects for them. He never even made an appearance in the major leagues. They never gave him a shot. So I was really surprised to see him get non-tendered. He's going to be coming into his age 24 season, but he's got a ton of power. And honestly, the swing and miss isn't too bad. His strikeout to walk ratio isn't bad. Just 2 seasons ago, he hit 24 bombs and I believe 80 something RBIs between AA and AAA. And then last year he spent all of the season in AAA for the Guardians. So he's a guy you could definitely take a flyer on, and you'd throw him at first base, or you could possibly even just try to stash him in Sacramento. But Valera
probably is a minor league option.
I was just going to ask what position
he should first base.
Okay.
But yeah, he was a top 100 prospect literally just a little over a year ago. So he's a guy that I think teams will look to snatch up very quickly, but I don't know that anybody would be giving him some big role in the major leagues right off the bat, considering he doesn't have a single major league at bat yet, but he was a really highly regarded prospect. We're talking like, top 30, 40 prospect just a couple years ago. So Keep an eye out on him, just for a team like the Giants who doesn't have anybody. They don't have anybody right now. We don't know if Bryce will actually be ready in the first half of the season. Just somebody to keep an eye on,
Yeah. We don't even know if Bryce is going to be in AAA to start the season, honestly.
Yeah, we really don't know. And
clue.
one other one that's kind of funny that would really irritate Dan is Wilmer Flores. His brother actually got non-tendered today, and he was a former top prospect for the Tigers.
Don't.
So,
Isn't his brother's name Wilmer also?
Yeah, Wilmer Flores. So we would get another Wilmer Flores on. It would just be the gift that keeps on giving, bringing in another Wilmer.
I will flip my desk right now. Don't say that.
Could you imagine if Wilmer gets traded during the winter meetings and then they go and sign his brother and you have to deal with his brother now?
I can't get away, man.
That'd be awesome.
So
make it happen, Buster.
But yeah, those are the main guys I was looking at. There's a few other guys in there, but again, they'd be more of like bench pieces. But those are some intriguing names I saw out there, especially the pitchers I mentioned.
Yeah, I saw what Brendan Rodgers also got DFA'd or got non-tendered, and then I think I saw Dylan Carlson's name get floated out there. Those were the two I kind of happened to scroll by on Twitter. So I don't really think either is a fit, but those were a couple bigger names that I saw. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some options. Hopefully they, it's hard because I want to see them still go out and make some moves that are like good savvy moves to like stash some solid bench players, but I also am just so tired of that being the philosophy. Is just like us having so many of these guys that are playing prominent roles on the team, and that's just the frustrating part. So yeah, you still got to have them though. Like that's the thing. But moving on. So before we get started on it, it's kind of what this show is obviously titled and everything today. But before that, anybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe, drop a comment in the live chat. That way you are entered for the giveaway at the end of this video. I will remind you guys before every kind of talking point we get to, just so everybody has a chance. You are going to have to be in the chat though at the drawing, because we noticed last time that it seems to remove people if you like just dropped a comment at the beginning and then bailed. So I'm pretty sure you do have to be like actively in the video. It'll be at the tail end of this live show that we do it. Probably, I don't know, we'll see how late this goes, but probably closer to 10 o'clock if I had to guess. So yeah, just a heads up for everyone.
And do you want to go over which one was already claimed of the three, or do you want to say that?
Yes, the Bryce Eldridge ball got claimed. So congrats to Joaquin. We are not, if you are watching, we aren't letting anybody win twice. So even if you get entered, if it lands on you, we're going to redraw. So yeah, congrats to Joaquin. We will get that out to him shortly. And then, so now the video, obviously we wanted to talk about the Giants front office. There's kind of a lot to digest with this. They made a couple moves that were, we'll just say wildly unpopular. I got in way too many Twitter fights this week. But they brought in Bobby Evans and Jeff Berry, who used to be Buster Posey's agent, in as advisors. I will let you guys lead off on this. Also, Randy Wynn is the VP of Player Development. I think that hiring had actually happened before our live show last week, but we hadn't really talked too much about it. So we're going to kind of talk about the front office as a whole. I do feel like it is lacking in some ways. I understand a lot of frustration, and I think I think some of the frustration is getting kind of misdirected though regarding it at like certain hirings, like especially the advisors. But I'll let you guys give us your thoughts first.
Yeah, let me give a quick little rundown here. I want to touch base on the front office and the coaching staff changes at the same time, because I've seen complete outrage, and I just want to kind of chime in on this. Firstly, I understand a lot of the fan base has a certain amount of discernment towards, or displeasure towards, Bobby Evans due to his rough little stint as GM. Guys, he's an advisor. He's not a scout director. He's not a GM. He's not a Pobo. He is an advisor with 20 plus years of experience. So fans need to chill out. That's my first thoughts just on that hire right there, plain and simple. Fans need to chill. He's being brought in to be an advisor, man. Like, if anything, he can only help. He's got experience with international signings. He's got experience with negotiations. He can literally only help in an advisor role, but he's not the guy. So everyone needs to chill with that. Secondly, I've also seen a bunch of fans tripping and freaking out about the departures. How, the Indians, they got Kai Correa and Alyssa Nakin, and everyone wants to go away from the Giants, blah, blah, blah. Dude, fans don't realize the Giants had the largest coaching staff in all of baseball. And look where I got them. I got them to borderline 500 for the last 3 years. Like, that ship has sailed, my guys. So again, got to chill out with that. So that's just my thoughts. I mean, obviously, it's us, the three of us, we wanted Logan White, or we wanted, somebody external to come in. But I mean, the front office is still taking shape. The coaching staff is still taking shape. The offseason's barely begun. You're getting these guys in advisory roles, and people are freaking out like it's the end of the world. My thing is just chill, man. Got him out though. Let's relax. That's just my opinion.
You mean Bobby Evans isn't going to tell him to trade Bryce Eldridge for Mike Trout?
Right? It's insane. A lot of these takes I see on X, bro, it's just insane. So, yeah, I mean, he's an advisor. And Randy Wynn's got experience scouting and coaching. He's a vice president of player development. He's not the guy. And Jeff Berry is an advisor. Like, we just gotta chill. That's my thing. Just chill.
Yeah, so my thoughts are, I think there's kind of a little bit of an echo chamber, and I think some of it's started with Will Clark and about 3 different videos of comments he made on the No Filter podcast with Eric Burns. Yeah, so I think a lot of it started with that, and people see Will Clark as this meathead, old school baseball player that doesn't know anything. And I think a lot of fans, the new age fans, are taking a lot of his comments out of context and kind of misunderstanding what he means when the new regime is going to be using a lot more gut and feel for the game to, manage, scout, whatever it may be. So I feel like that's where a lot of the worries are coming from with a lot of these guys that Posey's bringing in. And I just look at it like any regime change that ever happens in sports. You look at Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch with the Niners. They cleaned house. They didn't bring back a ton of, significant coaches. They really brought in most of their own guys. You look at Steve Kerr with the Warriors taking over for Mark Jackson. He did not bring a bunch of those coaches back. This is totally normal for, a front office to go and say, hey, we're going to bring in a bunch of our guys. We have these roles for you. If you guys want them, they're here for you. If you guys want to leave, we're going to let you leave and interview somewhere else. So for me, it's very typical, and I don't think it's an indictment on these guys not believing in what Posey's putting out there and what Maniasen's putting out there. I don't think it has anything to do with that at all. And yes, while these coaches may be well respected around the league, I don't think this means that the Giants are going to just fall apart out of nowhere. At the end of the day, I look at Alyssa Nakin. I would love for every fan to tell me how many things she did to significantly contribute to the on-field product for the Giants. Seriously. She was in charge of player development. What exactly did she do? What players have we actually heard from that said that their success is due to Nakin being on the field with them and teaching them how to field ground balls or how to swing the bat? I don't think so. And it has nothing to do with me disliking Nakin. It's just, I don't know that she played some significant role. Kai Correa, we heard him a ton because he got a ton of TV time. But at the end of the day, like, these guys are not going to be the reason that the Giants win or lose on the field. At the end of the day, it comes down to bringing in better players, doing a better job of scouting. And when we're talking about player development, you know, everybody's saying she's so well respected around the league, but what player development were we getting in the last 6 years? The only person we really saw develop was Ramos. And who's to say she takes credit for that when the development was taking place in Sacramento? So it's like, let's relax a little bit on that. You know, I really think we got to give these guys a chance first and see what's really going on instead of, you know, making knee-jerk reactions to coaches leaving, because to me it's very typical. And as far as, you know, Randy Wynn, Bobby Evans, Jeff Berry, I look at it this way. Jeff Berry is a former agent. He can assist Posey as far as, you know, working with other agents and his relationships. It could help them out with trades. It could help them out with making, you know, smart decisions when it comes to putting contract offers together. So why not? And then as far as Bobby Evans goes, a lot of Giants fans forget how involved he was on the international scouting side of things when they brought in that huge haul of Matos, Luciano, Pomares, all these guys, Camilo Duvall, all these guys. So let's not forget some of what he did before he left, other than, you know, just going off of the last 2 seasons when he was here. So that's pretty much where I'm at.
Nailed it.
And to your point, like, all of these people that are leaving, if somebody can tell me one person that left for a, you know, that left for a promotion due to, like, I think Brian Bannister, I mean, who went to Chicago, I think technically he got a promotion, which him and Bailey, like, that's totally understandable. Like, those two, him and Andrew Bailey, like, they were very highly regarded. Bailey obviously went and did a lateral move. He wanted to go back to the East Coast. Brian Bannister got a promotion, and that took place due to, like, a regime, like, as far as, like, a whole coaching staff change. Like, a lot of people jumped ship at that time. But, like, this offseason right now, we look around and I don't think a single person has taken a promotion. So yeah, the league might value these people in the roles that the Giants had them in, but clearly the Giants are devaluing those same people where they're saying, you know, we're not, like Pete Patilla, who we all really wanted to see stick around. Like, the Giants demoted him. Like, he wasn't the GM anymore. And clearly he wanted to take a different role that maybe kept him on the GM Pobo path more than what he would have had with the Giants. I don't know. But, you know, a lot of people, when they're getting demoted, like, even if they don't mind that position, they don't want to be in that place any longer if they're getting a demotion. So there's just a lot of people on the team that clearly the Giants are saying, you know, we're not going to stop you if you want to go, but you're not going to be in the role you were in. And I think we're seeing that with a lot of people. So I just don't think this exodus or whatever we want to call it really matters. The Giants are getting the people they want in place, and that's just going to be what it is. Now, I flagged this one because Vita for Life says they're basically staying internal for everything. We're to expect they had better people to scout and develop already. This team is going to be a mess. And I think this is the miss of this whole front office, you know, facelift, whatever we want to call it. This is where I think all of us agree that they need an outside voice. Like, that is a fair critique. That is something that all three of us have said we wanted to see, was an outside voice get brought in. I think all of us still like the Manassian hire. Like, I don't have an issue going in-house on that hiring if you feel like he is the best person for that job as the general manager. The Randy Wynn one is the one I'm, like, the most on the fence on. You know, he has some history with scouting and player development side of things. I do think there is a pathway for that to be super successful, especially if he kind of revamps, especially with position players, like their player development. If they start letting people more lean into their strengths and things like that, and not try and pigeonhole everybody into the same type of hitter, I do think there could be a ton of success with Randy Wynn in that role. But that is still a big promotion for him, and he's not super experienced, so that could definitely go several different ways. But like the getting upset over advisors thing, it's just ridiculous. Like both of you have said, Jeff Barry, he was an agent for super long. Like this guy has tons of experience negotiating contracts. That when you have two guys in your president of baseball operations and general manager roles that haven't negotiated any contracts in their career, maybe other than for themselves to an extent, it is not a bad thing to have guys with a ton of experience doing that. That is an excellent thing to have in house. Bobby Evans negotiated a lot of this contracts for Sabian. That's not a bad thing. So I don't care about these guys in advisor roles. Ricky mentioned the international stuff. I mean, Bobby Evans really brought the Giants international game, so to speak, up to the 21st century when he was here. So he has strengths. Now, do I want him negotiating trades? No, I don't. I hope he stays away from that part of the business. But like he has things that he brings in a positive manner to the club. Like that's a fine thing. Also, you look at a couple of his most recent drafts for Bobby Evans. His last 3 first picks in his drafts were Joey Bart, Elliot Ramos, and Brian Reynolds. Like clearly he had something of an eye for talent, given that all 3 of those guys are good players today. So it's not a bad thing having the guy in. A lot of people talk about him like he's just the village idiot. And it honestly pisses me off because it just shows a complete lack of knowledge to me. Like just no nuance. It's just, he ruined our team. I'm angry about it. And it's like, he really didn't. He probably had a directive from above that they were trying to drag out the core for a couple more years. Did he make some ill-advised move? Absolutely. Do I want him as a GM? Hell no. Do I care if he's an advisor? No, he brings positive things to the club. It's just as simple as that.
And here's the thing that I think a lot of fans are missing. They're not looking at the resume of these guys. They say, oh, Manazian's been with the organization for 3 years. He's simply just an internal hire. He was a bad move. Okay, what about the 20 years before that he had with multiple other organizations? Like yes, he's internal recently as far as, the last 2-3 years, but before that, he was definitely an external hire that was brought in with countless experience with Milwaukee, for example. So it's like a lot of these guys that they're bringing in, it's like, yes, they're internal, they're familiar with the organization, but they're not new to this. Like they're not new to the game. They've been around the league. They've been around organizations. Like, come on, like we gotta use our brain a little bit. Like, come on.
Yeah. My personal favorite that I've heard is people saying that Bobby Evans is going to get in the way of them being a good team. And I'm like, based on what? I mean, did he get in the way of them winning 4 pennants and 3 World Series in his time as in a supportive type role in the front office for 20 plus years before he was the GM? No, he didn't. It's fine. It's okay, everybody. That like they have there are criticisms that are deserved in their front office right now. I still want to see more. I would love to see them bring in like another AGM or something that's more of an outside voice, but like
I think they will.
Who's our advisor is just so low on the list of things people should be complaining about, but here we are.
Grant, if you go on Giants X, it's like Chicken Little. The sky is falling over there, bro.
Hey, just look in my replies. Go on mine. You'll see.
It's a crying fest between panicking that the legend Mike Yastrzemski is going to be traded or non-tendered before today's deadline, and then constantly crying about Bobby Evans just coming in to destroy the franchise that hasn't been making the playoffs anyways, and is a guy who probably won't even be in San Francisco for most of the year because he'll probably be watching games around the country and going out of the country to go and scout other players. So that's kind of where we're at with a lot of the fan base right now.
Yeah. And Grant, with this comment right here, people don't realize Posey's been in this role for a month and a half. He's still constructing his front office. Like there are more moves to come. Like this is not just it, but I don't know, man.
It's crazy. So we'll see. I think we all would like to see another external person. I do understand some of the feelings of like they're going to go too. It's an overcorrection. They're going too far into the old school. They're going to, they're not bringing any analytics, analytically inclined people. I mean, to that, I would just say at the end of the day, the guy that got the most trusted position, like the highest, front office position below Buster Posey, is a guy that has worked under Farhan Zaidi. David Stearns was writing, handing Bobby Valentine Sabre analytics reports on players when he was like teenager. Like this is a guy that does like have a really strong grasp on the analytics side of things. And he's the guy that's the GM that is probably going to be making most of the day-to-day decisions. So I think it's a bit of an overreaction to say this team is just going to go full meathead and only care about RBIs and nobody cares about OPS or any of this other stuff anymore. Like I do think that's an overreaction, but I do understand it with a lot of the other hires that have taken place.
Wait. So you're saying Manazian is an internal hire that's going to doom the organization and he hates analytics, right? That's what you're saying? Got it.
Exactly.
I just think it really comes down to it being a much more collaborative effort across the board from all across the coaching staff up to the front office and through the front office. And I just think this front office is going to be a work in progress for at least the next couple of years as Posey starts defining roles a little bit more clearly, because as we've heard numerous times, it was more of a dictatorship in the front office the last 6 years. So now you're going to find guys really being in more defined roles and then report to Posey, but it being a more collaborative effort where guys are actually giving their opinions on things and it being valued. And that goes all the way down to, the minor league coaching staffs as well and those scouts.
No, you just nailed it. You just nailed it, Rick, because I was just going to say that's going to be the biggest change you see with this upcoming season and this new regime compared to years past, because rather than just having one guy that's got his fingers in every little aspect of the team and the organization from top to bottom, now it's a collaborative effort. Now it's spread out to multiple, big brain people with experience that are on this group, that are on this team, that are going to be Posey's right-hand man, that can, assist with their own individual roles, but keeping everyone else in the loop. Now it's a collaborative effort instead of you just got one authoritarian weirdo at the top of the helm. So you just nailed it.
I think we're going to see a lot more empowerment in this front office.
Yeah.
I think, kind of like what you guys are saying. Like Posey's going to probably, he's going to want to be informed on stuff, but I do think he is going to empower several people in his front office to kind of go do their jobs, basically, like be in charge of the things that he put you in charge of and not feel like he's going to control every little thing. I mean, he's already said it with someone like Bob Melvin, who he's like, this guy's got like 30 years of managing experience. Why would I tell him how to write his lineups? It's like, yeah, we're going to collab, we're going to collab on, maybe what the projections say, and then whatever he's comfortable with, what the projections for that say. But at the end of the day, it's his decision. Like he's the manager. And I know Farhan's trying to do some damage control on his image probably and be like, well, I never set the lineups, but it's like, dude, there are people that are in the know that have been saying that you've been setting the lineups. Will Clark doesn't just go out and say those things because he's still employed by the Giants. Like, I think people kind of forget. They assume he didn't want to be around as much with Farhan there. And he talked about how other, older, guys that have been around the organization forever kind of got pushed away while Farhan was there. But he was still a special advisor. He was still working for the Giants. He was still going and helping with guys like Bryce Eldridge's defense in the fall league and, all these different things. Like he was still going around doing those things. And he doesn't just go on his podcast and talk about how Farhan was doing all this stuff if Farhan wasn't doing any of this stuff. I mean, I'm sure he has a little bit of an agenda against the analytics, but like, come on.
Yeah. So. You guys saw the clip I sent you when he was talking about how Farhan just went in and basically tore down Murph's his office and just put all the nerds in there and got rid of like all the history in the clubhouse. and all that. That was a trip. That was a trip to hear.
Yeah. I don't know how if you can disrespect the club any more than taking Murphy's office and turning it into a nerd hive. Like, I don't know.
I mean, that's just one quick way to create a real huge divide, in the clubhouse between the new regime at that time and, players that had been there. Because keep in mind, he came in, and when he first came in, you still had Bumgarner, you still had Posey, you still had Bochy. Brian Sabian was still around as an advisor. And that shows you how little power advisors have at times, because Brian Sabian was supposed to be a lead advisor for the team and had zero say, to the point where he said, F this, I'm out and going to New York. So for everybody that wants to freak out on people being named advisors, that's proof right there that we don't need to freak out, because these guys are not going to have a crazy amount of power more often than not.
Yeah. No, I think remains to be seen just how much influence they'll have. But it's just the wealth of knowledge that someone like Bobby, who's, he's done some stupid stuff, but like that's also something that he can draw from. Like, hey,
Exactly.
if you have a toolsy prospect and you're coming off a 98 loss season, maybe don't trade that guy for a 30-year-old outfielder on his last year of his deal. Like, Bobby Evans is going to be able to draw from those experiences still. So it's not a bad thing to have in the building at all. So, you guys got anything else to talk about on that one, or do we want to?
I think that pretty much sums it up for me.
I could rant for hours, so let's move on.
Yeah. Anybody? So we're gonna talk a little Cody Bellinger here, because that is something that popped up this week. Before we do that, I do see about 92 people, looks like, currently watching. If you are on X, jump over to YouTube. Make sure you comment in the live chat. That is how you get entered in the giveaway. So you do have to be subscribed to the channel. So appreciate that. Let's try and get it up to 1,100. I think we were like just short of that when we jumped in here. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. That's how you get entered. We will be doing the giveaway at the end. There are 2 different items that you can choose from if you do happen to win. We have a signed Patrick Bailey Bowman card. It's like a prospect
it's
card.
his prospect card.
Yeah. I'm not, that shows about how much I do of card trading. So Ricky can fill you guys in on that one. Dan also has a it's like a in-game 2003 used in-game patch from Barry Bonds. Has a card or something that comes with it as well.
Yeah, it's
describe it more.
Yeah, it's an 03 Bonds pristine card with it's got a clip of his uniform game worn patch. So Adi, I was just going to elaborate. You have to subscribe and comment, but you have to be in the live show when we run the giveaway. Yeah,
which will probably be in about a half hour, so it'll be at the very end.
Yeah.
We're not going to stick on too late tonight. Dan is he's been working the doubles this week, so
I'm running on fumes. I'm going on almost 20 hours awake right now. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so we're going to do a little Cody Bellinger talk, which kind of an interesting situation. So the Cubs, obviously he opted into his deal, and it came out that the Cubs are looking to trade him. He is on do we want to call it a 1-and-1 deal? He's technically has 2 years and like $60 million left on his contract. I think he's getting paid $27.5 million this year. If he does decide to opt out after the season, there is a $5 million buyout involved. So there is you're on the hook for at least $32.5 million if you decide to make that trade. It's an interesting situation because there's a guy that obviously he was a kind of down ballot MVP candidate in 2023. He was a guy I was really felt like would have been a great fit for them last season. And I do think he's still a really good fit this coming season. And I don't think you'd have to trade that much for him. I had kind of an idea that I saw Somebody post yesterday or a couple days ago, might have been Bo, if you're watching, this is kind of your trade idea. He mentioned trading something like, Taylor Rogers and Lamont Wade Jr. for Cody Bellinger straight up. And a lot of people might look at that and go, why the hell would the Cubs do that? Because, those guys aren't like great players or anything like that. And to me, it's still productive players going back to Chicago. The combined salary for those two is going to be about $16.5 million. And it gives the Cubs an immediate, relief. It kind of cuts their commitment in about half for 2025. And then it completely removes any possible financial obligations in 2026 for the Cubs. So it makes a lot of sense for the Cubs. And it also could make a lot of sense for the Giants, just because given his versatility, you're obviously you're upgrading first base tremendously if you're going to play him over Lamont Wade Jr., both defensively and offensively. He also could potentially go out to a corner outfield spot if whenever Bryce comes up or whatever the case may be. It gives you a left-handed bat that the team needs, because right now you basically have Yaz and Lee, and do we really have any lefties? We're kind of hoping on Bryce at some point. So you're pretty light on the left-handed hitter side of things right now. And it's only a 2-year commitment, even if he opts in for next year. It's a lot of money. The Giants have money. That's not a problem, especially because you're really only taking on about $15 million for 2025 because you're offloading 2 of those contracts. So it can make a lot of sense. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, but it was just kind of an interesting, trade proposal I saw get floated out.
Yeah, I think Rick and I might defer a little bit on this. But as both of you know, I've wanted Bellinger for last year or two now. I've been big on him for the exact reasons that you said. One, he's an upgrade, in my opinion, over Yaz in the outfield, if you go that route. 2, he's an upgrade over Lamont at first base, if you put him in that position. Yeah, and like you touched on, the only thing is going to be his contract, but it's really not that bad, especially if you can offload some deals like you touched on, whether it's Wade, whether it's Rogers, whether you end up trading Yaz or something, you want to keep him in the outfield primarily. You have options where you can be flexible, financially speaking this year. And he's versatile, dude. And I just think with his style of play, we all seen his swing. He's very much like a line drive type of hitter. I think he could feast in triples alley, especially with the speed. Then you get the versatility on the bases. I just think he crosses off a lot of boxes that you need. Obviously, he's not that MVP caliber player that he was in the past. So you can't have such high expectations if you go out and acquire him. But I think that he fills a lot of needs right now on multiple sides of the plate, defensively, offensively, speed-wise, runners in scoring position, like Grant just said. He was great, and that's something the Giants lacked in last season. So he fills and checks off a lot of boxes, and I'm all for it. So if you can flip something like a Rogers and a Wade for him, and you're only paying him $15 million this season, and then worry about it next season, I'm all for it.
And Nick, I'll try and check his defensive. I don't know how much he played at first last season. I know he'd played some, but I'll see if I can find that for you.
Yeah. I can tell you right now, he's an upgrade over Wade at first base, without a doubt. Wade is very average, despite what some Giants fans might think defensively. He's gotten a lot better at picking the ball at first, but his arm is very sketchy when it comes to turning double plays and things of that nature. I don't think he has a ton of range going back on pop-ups. I don't think he has a ton of range going right to left. So I think Belly would definitely be a big upgrade overall over Wade. So where I'm at, though, in general with Belly is I wasn't as interested in him if he didn't opt into this contract with the Cubs, just because I was worried that it might prevent them from doing other things in free agency because of the dollar amount he would be getting. Now, if you can acquire him via trade and have some offsetting salaries in there, I'm much more in favor of that, because then you're not taking on as much additional money, that you're adding to your payroll. So for me, I personally think Yaz is a little bit better of a fit in a trade with the Cubs, because I know that they still have some interest in Chicago and bringing in Pete Alonso over there, and that's part of why they want to clear some of their payroll. So, and I do know that they were actually showing interest in Yaz prior to the non-tender deadline. So I could see the Cubs being interested in something like that, where, you know, they're taking on a guy that they already like, that can give you good defense and, you know, spot start for you here and there in the outfield. And then you get a pretty solid reliever. I mean, Taylor Rogers' numbers are pretty good. I personally don't think he's worth the dollar amount he's at with his contract, but I do think he's very valuable to a lot of other teams. And I know the Cubs could definitely use the help in the pen. So I would say, yeah, something like Yaz and Rogers, and that might do it. The only issue with Yaz is just his dollar amount is $9 million versus Wade being at $4 million. So that would be the only thing for the Cubs. Maybe the Giants say eat $2 million off that contract and try to split the difference there.
Yeah. I think there's a way to make the financials work easily if they wanted to do Yaz instead. Like you said, if they eat a couple of the mil off that deal, they could certainly do it. It's just a matter of what the Cubs would want. And Mike, to this, like, I don't think they're going to get a prospect haul for Cody Bellinger, not at $32.5 million owed in 2025. Like that's the reason why, you know, regardless of what we think as Giants fans about like guys like Taylor Rogers and, you know, not being worth the dollar figure that he's getting, or, you know, Lamont Wade or Mike Yastrzemski or any of these guys that we might have frustrations towards them as players, like they're still productive players, and the Cubs are they're saving a significant amount of money. And like Ricky said, if they're trying to turn around and sign a Pete Alonso type, it makes sense. Like in Wade, you know, obviously they could turn him into a bench player, put him in the outfield and left or right, which isn't that tough at Wrigley unless the wind's just whipping around, which I mean, I guess that actually does happen a lot there. So maybe you wouldn't want Wade out there either, but there is a reason like this would make sense for the Cubs. Now, might they get a better offer elsewhere? Yeah, they might. They might get a team that does trade them some low end prospect and just says, we'll take all the money. We don't care. So,
hey, here's a guy you can throw in any trade package just to sweeten the deal if they want a prospect. Wade Meckler. I would do it.
I do want to see Wade at second base now that they've actually put him there. I do kind of want to see if he can like actually be a functional defender now that they've got him at second.
Functional.
Until he gets a big league pop-up at second and just completely loses it.
Well, he's well practiced in the pop-up dance already.
I thought you were going to say
just as his routes to fly balls.
I thought you were going to say he's well practiced and losing it. I was like, amen, brother.
That too. Dude needs to take the drug goggles off. Yeah. So I'm just checking these chats. Mike Talkman got idea.
Dude, I like Talkman. Talkman is a beast defensively.
He was a much improved player when he went to Chicago, though, the last few years. Because I believe he went to play in Korea or Japan after he left the Giants. Because he played somewhere else after the Giants let him go, and then he went overseas and worked on his swing and came back a much improved offensive player. You know, just
Aaron Ruff.
Just as a role player, if his offense is at least somewhat playable. He's an elite defensive center fielder, so guys like that can always and guys like that can always fill a role on the back end of 26-man rosters.
Yeah, I take Talkman over Yaz. I'm being honest.
Yeah, honestly, Talkman is a great guy to have on your team if you are gonna run with a Lee Ramos Matos outfield, something like that. And
defensive replacement.
A guy like Talkman would be not a bad guy where you can just throw him out there in the bottom of the eighth or top of the eighth or top of the ninth if you're leading, and just kind of have some added defense. So not a terrible idea at all. Yeah. So anybody have any topics they want us to cover? We only kind of loaded up a couple right there. So if you guys have some ideas, I know I saw a few people mentioning, for this offseason, avoiding QO players or just try and get, let's see, Mike, you actually mentioned a couple guys, Snell, Adamas, and a reliever, and someone who can field, still be under the cap. Yeah, we've kind of talked about it in the past. You could easily probably afford those two.
Tanner Scott.
I'm not sure if you'd be able to pull Tanner Scott if you were to sign both Snell and Adamas, but you should be able to find yourself a decent reliever. But you are probably going to need to offset some of that cost by moving guys like Yastrzemski and Wade and at least part of Taylor Rogers' deal, which I'm all for. We've said in the past, we are all for moving on from those guys.
Man,
So,
if that happened, you get those three and offload those guys. Oh, it's like Christmas morning.
Yeah. Any realistic trades we see happening? I mean, this is the hard thing. So the last video we kind of talked about a lot of realistic targets that are out there, and I think we all have a lot of deals that we think are ones that we could see happening. The problem is it's just like you never know who's actually going to get dealt. You never know what other teams are going to get involved and what they might be willing to offer. I know that Yandy Diaz one is one that we all kind of feel would make a ton of sense for both sides, but Tampa might get a better offer from another team. Like that's the hard part.
Yeah.
So.
The thing with putting together trade packages too is, you don't know where other teams are viewing their minor leaguers too in the upper levels. You don't know if teams are going to be aggressive going into the season since we're so early in the offseason still. And you don't really know if they're going to be willing to sell certain guys off because it's really hard to gauge. So that's why, like last week on the live, I proposed a lot of guys that you could see them go after and trade. That would be very realistic, but I didn't put packages together because it's just way too hard to gauge and see where other teams are at. Because, we have a pretty good feel for the Giants and which guys would be on the table for getting moved. But when you look at other teams, it's really hard outside of some of the small market teams that have guys on expiring contracts. That's why I really mentioned guys like, Yandy Diaz, potentially Freddie Peralta, but that would be more probably a next season type thing just because he's still got 2 years left. Even like a team like the Cardinals, they're kind of in no man's land. They're kind of in that range of where the Giants are at, where they're kind of stuck in the middle. And it's really hard to gauge where they're at because they have some older guys that they're starting to let go. And then they have a huge crop of these younger guys. So it's really hard to gauge. I mean, even one other guy we've been talking about through text is Wilyer Abreu on the Red Sox, and that's just because they have a surplus of outfielders. So, but that's another team. It's really hard to gauge on what they would want in return because they do have a surplus of young talent. With them, it would probably be starting pitching, but is Wilyer Abreu a guy that the Giants would be willing to part ways with one of their top pitching prospects for? Would the Red Sox even want a younger guy like that, or would they want somebody more proven? It's really hard to say. But he's an intriguing name that's definitely been floated out there for sure.
Yeah. The one I floated out the other day, and I know you kind of mentioned Luciano as an option in this trade, but you had mentioned Devin Williams from Milwaukee. And I know you kind of floated like you could trade Doval and a prospect maybe back to Milwaukee. It's like, hey, here's a cheaper reliever. He's going to make half as much as Williams or whatever it is. And then, I mean, I mentioned Casey Schmidt as the prospect going back, which I don't want to see Casey go back. I like Casey Schmidt. I want to see him stick around. I want to see him be the second baseman next season. I think you guys all know how I feel about Casey Schmidt, but I could see a guy like that going back because I think from everything I've read, they plan on moving Joey Ortiz over to shortstop, which is going to leave them a big old hole at third base. And, you put Casey in Milwaukee where he's going to probably, it's a much friendlier environment for his hitting, but he would get to actually play his natural position. It would make a ton of sense for Milwaukee if they could swing that deal. And frankly, I'd say Milwaukee would probably get the better end out of that deal when it's all said and done. But I could see a deal like that happening for sure. So.
Yeah, and the thing a lot of people I hear say too is they look at Devin Williams, they're like, well, why would the Brewers trade a guy like that? And it's like, well, again, small market team. And Devin Williams is another guy on an expiring deal. He's only making $8.4 million, but it makes a ton of sense for a team like the Giants who Cody, Dan, and I have talked about this a lot off of the channel, but the Giants seem to be as interested in adding a 8th or 9th inning type reliever just as much as they are in a shortstop. So I honestly think those are the two spots they're going to prioritize super heavily as far as like the top end of the market. But yeah, I mean, I honestly think Doval going back in a Devin Williams trade makes a ton of sense if the Giants don't go and sign a Tanner Scott type. And Williams is another guy that would save you a ton of money on the payroll when you're trying to keep that number down, because you're getting him for what his number is this year, $8.5 million, which for a guy like that is not hurting you at all, especially if you're sending Doval back and then say you send, another young player back to help Milwaukee out, you offset a little bit of that salary and you're really probably only taking, say $5 million, back in that trade. So,
yeah. What is Luciano's outlook now that he is in the outfield, starting AAA and then platoon with Yaz if he hits? I mean, I think that's. I don't know if they would necessarily platoon him with Yaz if he does hit in AAA, but I could see him, taking up a lot of DH at bats if he starts hitting. He is on his last option year. Him, Casey, Matos, those are the three guys that are on their last option years in 2000. I mean, technically Fitz is too, but Fitz is a bit more established. But they're all in their last option years. So the Giants got to either trade them, figure out what they got. Like you're kind of the crap or get off the pot phase with those guys.
You got to figure out what position he is. You've had this dude in the organization since he was 16, and you still don't know what position he is. So, like, now he's in the last year of his option. You're like, you got to figure out what position to play him at, plain and simple.
Yeah, for sure. Road King Rob says with Fitz, Casey has a little room if they sign Adames or Kim. My pushback on that would be Fitz can play everywhere, basically. Yeah. So you could basically turn both guys into near everyday players, and Fitz could just bounce all over the place. You could play him every 2 weeks or whatever at third. You could give him a day at short every week. You could give him a day at second, put him in the outfield for a day. I mean, God, you could easily, if you went a different route with like a guy like Matos or whatever, you could turn Fitz into the right-handed half of the platoon with Yaz. I mean, there's a ton of options of what they could do to create.
And I think Posey kind of recognizes Fitz as a utility player as well. He had some comments about that maybe a week or two ago. And I mean, I've been preaching that for months now as well, like going into next season. I don't want to solidify Fitz as the starting shortstop or second baseman. I think you have to upgrade both of those positions or one or the other and roll with Schmidt at second. But yeah, regardless, I think Fitz. It's funny how that works. Fits more into a utility type role.
Yeah. What would your offseason ads be with only one QO guy for a group of shortstop, starting pitcher, first base? I think the Giants will sign one and two others. Snell, Kim, Santana is your hope. Well, I mean, none of those guys are QO guys, so if they pulled that, I mean, they're not losing anything. So that's a good, that wouldn't be a bad thing in that sense. I mean, for me, I've said it for a while now. If I could only get one QO guy, I want Adames. Yeah, assuming Soto isn't an option, but I would want Adames just because I do personally believe that his defense will at least be going back to being at least like a little bit above average. He solidifies that shortstop spot, at least in the short term. Maybe you do move him off that eventually. I know, Ricky, you've mentioned it's kind of an expensive second base option if he does end up getting kicked over to second base in 3 or 4 years. But to me, you got to get middle of the order hitters. You got to get guys that can drive people in, and he fits a lot of needs on this team. So that would be mine personally. And then, yeah, if you can get him with Snell, like even if you only sign 2 guys and you get those 2 guys, I'd call it a successful offseason pretty much no matter what you do the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So.
And I think going back to that last comment, I honestly think even if the Giants only sign, say, 1 of 2 between Adames and Kim or some other second baseman or shortstop, I still think, if Fitz starts at second, I still see them bringing in somebody in a veteran type infielder that can kind of play all over like Fitz can. Especially because you want somebody that can provide a little bit of depth. Say Chapman goes down, you want somebody that can go and plug in at third. Doesn't have to be Bregman, obviously. That's a more expensive option, but just a veteran guy that can kind of move around the diamond a little bit. I don't see them keeping Schmidt up just to keep him in some really limited part-time role, because that's not going to benefit him. He's a guy that, if we have him coming up, he needs to get some decent at-bats to actually be able to give him a role. It's not going to help him out at all. He's a guy that I think made a ton of strides last year, but if we're going to have him up at the major league level, don't just stash him on the bench and leave him sitting cold for 5-6 days a week. Like, that's just not going to do the guy any good. So that's kind of where I'm at with the infield group.
Yeah, I think all of us are kind of on the same page as far as the infield group is concerned. I can pretty much guarantee we're signing Kim. So, unfortunately, that leads me to believe that Adames is probably out of the question, even though the Giants are interested in both, supposedly. But yeah, I mean, if you can land Adames and Snell, you won the offseason for Giants fans. But if it comes down to just being Kim, and hopefully if you can get Snell, that'd be great. Maybe a smaller player on the side I can live with that. But yes, like Road King Rob just said, Snell's made it clear since, before the end of the season that he wants to get a deal done early. He doesn't want to wait until March again. Giants are one of the favorites, so here's hoping, fingers crossed. But he's already met with Boston. He's already met with LA. I just I need Snell back in the Bay.
Yeah, I have some, I kind of was talking to you guys. I don't think this was on last week's show. I think this was off the show. But I do find it kind of, Snell has always been a guy that even during the season, I remember they interviewed him in like June or July, and he had mentioned like he had hardly gone out into the city. And then every time he talks about like being close to Seattle, and he's constantly trying to get back up to Seattle, even when like during the All-Star break and during the offseason, like he usually gets out really fast. And then the season ended and weeks have gone by and you still see him out like golf at, I don't know if it was at Pebble Beach or like he was playing golf with like Logan Webb, and he's still hanging out. And it's like, it's kind of coming out that he actually really likes the area. I mean, even John Heyman, for whatever that's worth, kind of came out and mentioned how much Snell loves San Francisco. And it's like, I hear those things and I think they have a real shot. And I do wonder if he wants to be back. And this might be a scenario where it's a rarity for us Giants fans, but this might actually be a scenario where they're trying to drive the price up on the Giants and not use the Giants to drive the price up on someone else. I mean, who knows? I mean, one thing that I think Snell is a competitor. I do think he likes the challenge of getting to face a team like LA. I think he likes what it can do for his reputation as a starter. If he goes and just shoves them 3 or 4 times a year, that does earn you a lot of points in the eyes of many. So, we'll see. I'm not really sure. I don't have a great feel, but there are a lot of tea leaves that are kind of out there saying that he wants to come back to San Francisco. And it's not just like the local media propping him up. Like this is just coming around. So I don't know.
And I do think bringing in Buster as your president does make a difference. I mean, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I mean, when you bring in a guy like that that's as well respected around the league as he is, and say he goes out and pulls off an Adamas type move while he's not Juan Soto, I do think that would be a huge eye opener around the league, and especially to someone like Snell who knows San Francisco's close to home. His wife was much happier with him being here. You have Chapman there, you have Mel here. You know, it's a little bit more stable with some of these other guys coming in, and then he sees a guy like Buster who I'm sure he has a lot more respect for than someone like Farhan who never played the game before. Um, he can see a guy like that go in and immediately start making big moves and say, "Hey, we're in business. You know, we're building something here, and I can add to that if I'm actually coming in with a full off season and ready to go from the jump rather than constantly missing time through the first 2-3 months of the season." So, I think that could really set the tone for the off season and make a guy like Snell sign even quicker because it's possible that we see Adames end up being the first big domino of the offseason, honestly. Like as soon as the winter meetings even.
Yeah. When are the winter meetings? It's like the second week of December, no?
Yeah. I believe December 15th is the first.
Okay.
I think it's December 15th or 16th is the start of it, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we'll start seeing some smaller moves happen after Thanksgiving. That's typically what you see on a yearly basis. And then once winter meetings happens, it's like Road King Rob just said, that's when the iceberg starts to break a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think the three of us and most Giants fans would be very, very pleased if by the end of the year, hypothetically speaking, you've locked down Blake Snell and, if you've landed a big fish like Adames or something, I think we would all be very, very happy with that. But like I said, and I've been saying it to you guys privately, and I'm 90 to 8% sure that we're signing Kim. So hopefully it doesn't mess up Adames' plans. If you throw him at second and then you still want to go pursue a shortstop, by all means, land Adames, Kim, and Snell. That'd be wonderful. But I'm just bracing you guys. We're going to sign Kim.
Yeah, and Kim might be a security blanket, but ultimately, I don't think it'll really affect the Adames pursuit much at all. It might be like, okay, we have Kim here. We couldn't get Adames, but he's still there. We plug Fitz or Schmidt in at second and go from there. Bring in another veteran guy, or maybe they pivot and go hard after Bregman, like we were just talking about. And then you just kind of plug and play in at short because you don't really have many other options.
Yeah. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, you know what? We all give Hossack him a hard time. I've mentioned it in the past. Like he would be probably a very high floor player. Like he doesn't have the upside of a guy like Adames because he's not going to be a guy that you might see ever drive in or knock 30 out and drive in 100 runs. Like that's just not his game. But if anything, like he's going to be probably a Gold Glove finalist at second base. He's going to steal you 30 plus bags. He's going to get on base at a decent clip. Like he's just going to be he's not going to strike out a ton. Like he would be a valuable player. It's not
the
Giants
splash.
Giants need, better than just high floor players. Like that's been the issue for a long time. So like, it's not a bad move.
It's like I said when the offseason started. Kim has to be one of your signings, not the signing. Like you still got to make a splash. Yeah, you still got to make a splash in addition to him. So, like I said, if you can somehow manage to land Adames, Snell, and Kim and stay under the CBT, you won the offseason, in my opinion. Which, financially speaking, it's definitely plausible. It's possible by all means. So,
for sure.
I mean, hopefully they can, finesse and finagle something financially so they can make a move like that, and that would be ideal for all of us. And Nick, to answer your question, no, because we've been discussing it and I've been emphasizing it. I think Fitz is he's a utility player. He's not set in stone at either short or second. You can plug him at first. You can plug him in the outfield. You can shoot. You can probably play, third. Like you could probably catch if you wanted him to in a pinch. So yeah, he's a utility guy, and I think that's the role that he needs to, kind of focus on.
Yeah. I mean, if you trade Fitz, who's going to be your garbage time pitcher?
Casey Schmidt.
I want to see that so bad. He
would.
Casey Schmidt already told us that if they let him pitch in a game, he's bringing the heat. So just letting everyone know, we need to root for that because he said he topped out at 97 in college. So.
He's honestly way too good to be used in a role like that. Like we need to see him like just say screw it, say they're up by like 7 runs, in the 5th or 6th inning, just freaking throw him in for an inning. Screw it. Or give him 3 batters. Just give him the 3 batter minimum. See what he can do.
Yeah. Scares me when they say there are reports that they want to cut payroll, basically saying they don't want to improve. I do actually. I feel like there's a little bit of a misconception with this. The team is currently $67 million under the tax. I do believe they want to cut payroll in the sense that they want to get under the tax. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt until they roll into next season with like a payroll $50 million under what they had in 2024. If they do that, then yeah, I would be pretty furious as a Giants fan, but they can spend. They have a lot of money because one of the few things that Farhan did really well, he didn't leave them with a ton of bad contracts and a bad financial, commitments. So they have a lot of room. They have a lot of ways to create more room with guys like Yaz, Wade, Doval, either Rogers or Twin. There are guys they can move to create some more space. So
yeah,
there are ways we'll call it, they can reallocate their money to still add and improve the team while also lowering their payroll from 2024 to 2025. So this will be my last reminder. What do you guys think? 10 o'clock, we'll do the drawing.
Yeah, that's good for me.
Yeah.
That works. Cool. All right. 10 o'clock, we're going to do the drawing. Last reminder, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment in it has to be in the YouTube chat. So for anybody that's over on X right now watching this, which I think there's probably a decent amount of people that are watching it through X, jump over to the YouTube stream. Yeah, it's like half the people that are 60 of the people are over on X. So jump over on to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment in the live chat. That will get you entered.
And then be sure you have to be in the stream at 10 when we run the giveaway. You can't comment now and then say, I'm good, and then go to bed. You got to be here at 10.
I just like the wording of this, Mike. I appreciate this.
Yes, Eddie, we will.
Yeah, pretty much nothing really changed. I think most of us expected everyone to get tendered contracts. I think Yaz was the only one that we could see being a little up in the air, but I think at the end of the day they realize like he's gonna, even if you eat a couple million, like he's worth at least like a mid-tier prospect if you're in a trade. So to me, this just tells me the team is willing to eat a couple $1 million if they think they can get something decent back for him. And also it allows them to not have to, like, it gives them some flexibility where they don't have to get desperate for someone. They don't have to like commit to a young player before they know what the rest of their roster looks like, where it could potentially hold them back. Now, I don't really foresee them adding enough for that to be that big of an issue, but you just never know. Just buy some time.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, off topic, one other thing I saw just a little bit ago that I wanted to bring up to you guys. Do you guys see they're saying that Roki Sasaki might be the Red Sox might be the favorite to land him now and not the Dodgers, which kind of ties into what we were talking about the other day about, him not wanting to go to the Dodgers because of, multiple variables, not wanting to be in, Otani's shadow and Yamamoto's shadow. and then also because of marketing opportunities, that would honestly make a ton of sense because I know Boston's going to be super aggressive in free agency this year.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
He would make a ton of sense in San Diego. He would make a ton of sense. Now, granted, San Diego being in SoCal, maybe he doesn't even want to be in the region. But I think from a playing standpoint, he would make a ton of sense there. He would make a ton of sense in San Francisco from a marketability standpoint.
Seattle.
But I just don't think, the Seattle, same thing. That's a big market. Boston, I agree though. I think Boston, as far as like huge markets that you're not competing with others, like Boston is one of the best when it comes to that. That would be a really good fit. And they've talked about like you mentioned, the opportunities for sponsorships and things like that. Like all these guys run the numbers, and when you're not going to be making money, like big money off your contract, because all you're going to get is whatever someone's international pool money, and then you're on a rookie deal essentially where you're pre-arb for 3 years and then arbitration for 3. He's not going to make a ton of money off of that deal. So he's going to have to make a lot of his money off, sponsorships and things like that. And when Ohtani and Yamamoto already kind of cornered the market for the Japanese players in LA, financially, it makes more sense for him to go elsewhere.
Put a bunch of freaking New Balance logos all over the damn stadium and get him a New Balance deal like Ohtani and call it a day.
Just promise him the funds from the Mission Rock development.
Yeah.
Under the table. We'll write over partial ownership to this. Oh, gosh.
What was the other one I was going to bring up too? Oh, speaking of the Red Sox too, I'm seeing that they might be making a hard push after Adames as well. So Giants could have competition on both those guys from Boston.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Lynn.
Shout out, Lynn.
Did you if you had something you meant to put in with that, drop it in the comments. But I appreciate you, man.
Sasaki go to. I honestly can't see Sasaki coming to SF just because it's going to be like a minor league deal based out of international signing bonus, and we have a lot dedicated already. So I can't see that happening, truthfully.
Yeah, for those of you that are unaware, it's from the sounds of it, he's going to sign during the 2025 international period, which means it's not going to happen until after January 15th. Mm-hmm. And that means teams are going to have, which is smart for him because then teams theoretically have their full pools that they can use for that. But the Giants, for those of you that aren't aware, already have probably a large portion of that committed to Josué Gonzalez, the shortstop that is the number one international free agent on that signing period. So I don't know how much they'd have less or left for Sasaki in that. And I don't think they're going to be willing to risk losing the deal with a guy, in order to try and hopefully get Sasaki. Like that's the issue. It's not a guarantee or anything unless he's got like an agreement saying I'm signing, like, and they're going to get it done before, like, I don't see them pulling out of the other one. So it does limit them a bit. And really, frankly, they shouldn't. Like you have a chance to get a position player that's got insane tools. I would just take the chances. So
yeah, for sure.
Over a maybe.
Ed, no, we should not trade for Trevor Story. If you would have asked me maybe 3-4 years ago, I would say yes, but now, no, definitely not.
Very injury prone.
Very.
Yeah. He's still been good, at least, like kind of like Trout. Like he's still been good when he's on the field, but it's hard doesn't to stay on the field. Yeah. Like,
one thing I was thinking about too, I know Fitz had a really hot stretch last year, but are we really so sure that, someone like Schmidt couldn't beat him out for, playing time in the middle infield, saying, if you assume that, say, at short or second, we don't fill both of those holes through free agency or trade, and you're just saying, okay, these two guys are going to compete. Because, I mean, everything we're hearing from Buster does not sound like he's sold on Fitz being a starter. So, if one of those spots is completely open, what's to say, Fitz doesn't get completely outplayed in the spring? And, Schmidt did not have a bad stint in the big leagues last year. Of course, it was up and down, but he didn't have the huge leash like Fitz did, because Fitz really did start slumping a lot once they started going a lot of hard sliders away from him. They started finding holes in his swing after that hot stretch, and he never really showed an adjustment to that. So
I was just going to say, after that little stretch, like for the rest of the season, didn't he bat like 150, 160, something like that? Like, it really wasn't crazy.
Yeah, and I'm not bagging on Fitz by any means. I like him a lot. I'm just saying, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's something to think about. All these guys are still fairly young, and Schmidt is a couple years younger than Fitz, and it's not crazy to think that could be a possibility, because I think we can all agree Schmidt is light years above Fitz on the defensive side.
Yeah.
So, and it's pretty clear that Buster prioritizes that.
Yeah. And for those of you that have heard my tangent on those two in particular in the past, like I personally look at both of them, and I do feel like Schmidt, who did make tangible improvements across the board, like it wasn't big, like a lot of them were a couple percentage points, like going in the right direction. He's on an upward trajectory. We saw an improvement in the power department. We saw him improve defensively at second base. He took a huge stride there. He was chasing a little bit less. His contact rates were all still way better than Fitz's when it comes to, connecting on pitches in the zone. I just look at the two of them and I go, okay, what's more likely? The guy 2 years older figuring out how to, swing and miss less on pitches in the zone, or the guy continuing to improve his swing decisions? Because Casey is way more advanced at bat to ball skills on pitches in the zone. It's just, can he not swing at a bunch of stuff that's a foot off the plate? And he showed improvement throughout the year. He had a really respectable walk rate in AAA. If you throw out that very first call up in San Francisco, where he was very clearly pressing, and he even kind of said as much when we interviewed him, like, if you throw that out, he was actually pretty disciplined at the plate. So I would love to see what he could do next season in a full-time role, but not sure if he'll get it or not. I know personally I'm rooting for him, and I think his arm could be a weapon at second base. I think his glove could be a weapon at second base. There's just a lot of positives with the guy. So, but that's not to say I don't like Fitz. He brings a lot of necessary things that this team needs, particularly with his speed. So he needs to be on the team in a big role.
Amen, brother.
And just to add on to the Fitz point, again, I'm not ragging on the guy. I like him a lot, but just to remind people, Fitz was striking out at a 38% clip in September. That's basically what people were ragging on Schmidt for in a lot smaller sample size. So just for a little bit of perspective, it's more just a talking point. It's not necessarily my feelings, but it's not a crazy thing to think about, because new regime, it's going to be, we're going to see a lot of changes come spring. And I think a lot of these guys, it's going to be open competition. I don't think a lot of these guys are in solidified roles outside of guys like, Chapman and Ramos, probably Lee, guys like that. So Bailey, obviously, but I think there's a lot of room for competition. So.
Yeah. And my last point to this, I mentioned it, with Tyler Fitzgerald. Sorry, I'm pulling up his baseball savant right now just to get the quick reference. His whiff percentage, an error. His strikeout and whiff rates were both 31.2% for whiff, 31.7% for strikeout rate, which was fourth percentile in baseball. Casey Schmidt was a 25% whiff rate, but 22.7 on the strikeout rate. So like significantly better. And almost all of Casey's swing and miss comes on pitches out of the zone. He doesn't swing and miss a lot in the zone. It's just, can he keep himself inside the zone? It's always the question with him. So that's just my personal feelings. I think it's more sustainable and there's more room for improvement there. So that's all.
Amen, brother.
But with that, what do we got? I'm going to start collecting comments. Currently, there's only 16. Dan just put the post in there, last chance. Make sure you guys, if you did leave, just drop a quick comment in the chat. It's kind of weird how the giveaway feature works. I don't know if it takes any of you guys out if you leave and then come back. So make sure you drop your comments. See a few people doing it here. We're going to get this going here in just a minute. Let me share the screen. If you are on X, make sure you jump over onto YouTube. You got to subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment. That's all you got to do to get entered. There are 2 items remaining. You got a Patrick Bailey autographed prospect card, Bowman brand, I think he said. You have a Barry Bonds game used patch. Whoever wins today will get to choose which one they want. I'm not going to make you choose over this live show. I know the previous person, I gave them until like Wednesday. They were able to tell me then. They took the Bryce Eldridge ball. Sorry for anybody that wanted that one. But congrats again to Joaquin. You guys, so we'll do one today, and then the next giveaway will take place on the following live show. Although there's a chance it's going to be 2 live shows, because not to spoil who, but we do have another player that committed to doing an interview with us. I don't know. I don't know if I want to like spoil who it is, but
don't say.
Until we get the, I will just say it is a prospect. It's another prospect. This is a big one.
It's a big one.
Yes. I will say it's a top 10 prospect on the Giants list right now.
It is the top 10.
Yeah. So we've got a good one. I don't have a date though for it. So we're working on that one. I'm waiting on, we are aiming for December 2nd is kind of our hope right now, but we do not know. It will be a little bit of an earlier show. That one, it's not going to be super early whenever we do it, but they are currently out east. That is the biggest hint I will give.
Yeah, it's a top prospect, and you guys haven't said his name yet, which I'm surprised.
So, I am a little bit shocked,
but you know, whatever. You guys will be surprised. It'll
be a fun one.
It'll be a really good one.
Yeah. But that will be that might take place because we are going to skip next week. We are going to skip next week live show. We are going to, because of Thanksgiving, figure everybody go spend the week with your family. You don't need to be listening to us ramble about stuff that ain't happening, because it's a holiday week and nothing's going to be happening. So go spend Thanksgiving with your family, enjoy the holidays, and we'll come back the following week, and we might, we might have a live show before the next giveaway. So now, as someone said it, guys. I can't tell you guys. I think you guys have listed everybody in the top 10. I can't say.
I was going to say there's only 10 options, guys. You guys had to have guessed all of them by now.
Yeah.
And I think you guys know who it is. Well, actually, if you go off of the MLB website, which they have garbage prospect rankings, don't go off of it.
Yeah.
Just ask us.
Yeah,
because there's like 2 guys that probably shouldn't be in the Giants top 10 according to the MLB website, if we're being honest. And you guys didn't guess those 2 guys, so it's basically between 8 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Which guys are you referring to there, Ricky?
Maui Ahuna, who
Yeah.
I don't know how the
That
hell
might be
this
the
guy's
biggest
number 10.
buzzkill. Pulled
That would be hilarious if we trolled you guys and it was Maui Ahuna who can't even get out of low A.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Man.
The top 8, we'll just go the top 8 because the other one was Reggie Crawford, which I mean I can make an argument for that. I like Reggie Crawford a lot personally, but we're talking Bryce Eldridge, James Tibbs, Carson Wisenhunt, Dakota Jordan, Rainer Arias, Joe Whitman, Walker Martin, Mason Black are the top 8.
It's one of those 8, guys. It's one of those 8.
How many of them are back east? And I know Eldridge.
How many are
Tibbs
back
and
east?
Dakota.
Only a couple.
For sure.
Bryce
I think
Tibbs,
Walker's in Colorado.
Dakota, Carson Wisenhunt could be.
Yeah.
I know he played on the East Coast. I don't know where exactly he lives now. Whitman, I believe, is another East Coast guy.
Yeah.
Walker Martin's Colorado. So yeah, and then Mason Black, I don't think is
he
East Coast
still on
guy,
their
is he?
list?
Yeah, Mason Black's number 8.
Yeah, he didn't graduate.
And that's another one. I don't really consider
just
him
gave
as
that
much of
away.
a
He's
prospect
not on
anymore.
All right, so it's one of the
Probably
top
gave that
7.
I mean, we got it down to a
Who's on the
pretty
list?
small group of guys. So, I mean, either way, there's not really any losing with any of those guys we mentioned.
Yeah. But yeah, we're still honing in a date. So we're hopefully gonna have hopefully be able to announce that one whenever we got it nailed down, and it is going to be up to that person if it is a live show or not. I did float it out to them. I have not gotten a reply on that. Because it probably just depends on if they want it in a more controlled environment or not. So, but I did tell them that you guys are awesome and that you guys would love that. So we will see.
That'll be a fun one.
All right.
I'm gonna be I'll be a year older at that show, guys.
I know.
I'm getting old.
Old man Dan.
Old man Dan the caveman.
Somehow I did not realize. See, I at least thought Ricky was older than me.
Oh,
I did not realize that I am the old man of this group, and I'm not okay with that. So
you're the elder, buddy.
I'm gonna get Dan C over here for a few videos.
Poor Dan. I remember the last live we did with him. Somebody in the comments was like, "Damn, Dan so old," and I'm like, "Damn, guys,
that's me."
Poor guy.
They roast him. I feel bad. I love Dan. He's awesome, but they roast him. It kills me.
Hey, they thought you were 20, Cody.
Did they think I was 20?
Look at Eddie. First saw you on NorCal. I thought you were 20.
Damn, I love it.
If anybody guesses,
a decade, but I appreciate it.
If anybody guesses Dan's age correctly within the next 30 seconds, they get a free card.
From who? Not me.
From me.
Someone's just gonna be like, someone's gonna be like starting.
Wait, which Dan? NorCal Dan or Caveman Dan?
You.
Ooh.
Okay.
You, because it's your birthday coming up.
Okay.
I mean, I think Dan
they're starting off high. They're starting off with 67.
Guys, I'm not 67. I'm not 58.
58.
I know I'm losing my hairline, but geez.
15 at heart.
Wait, are we going my age today or my age on Sunday? Because my birthday is Sunday.
We'll go right now.
Okay.
I don't feel like most of these guys aren't even close.
Get it?
I feel like. Okay, yeah, it is on there. I see.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know how old you're gonna be. I feel like I do, but I'm not 100%.
I do because we just talked about this the other day. We're all 2 years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I do see my name, my age in there now. Should I just say it? How old I am right now?
Did it?
Yeah, it's in there. I see it commented. Guys, I'm 26. I turned 27 on Sunday.
Yeah.
So Ricky will be the first. We'll see who was the first one to comment, and he'll acknowledge it.
You're gonna have to reach out to Ricky on that one.
Yeah, reach out to Ricky, whoever said it first.
Let's see who
That's
got
awesome.
it first. Just making sure. No, I didn't.
Did anybody
consider
even put
who was
Ricky's
it.
age in there?
Someone said Ricky's 26 and thought I was 28.
He's got it.
Uh,
I'm gonna be 27 on Sunday. Yeah.
yeah.
It was Ed.
He-
Ed DM Ricky.
oh, it was Ed? Ed got it first?
Yeah.
A guy
Did he?
called Ed.
Yeah, he got it first. I just scrolled up.
All right, Ed, DM me on X if you're on there, and I'll send you something. Just got to send me your address, and I will send you something out. And then producer Ryan, don't forget, I will be sending you something as well.
All right.
By the
All right,
way,
we got
shout out
24
Ryan.
people in here.
Yeah, shout out Ryan. Ryan's the
We're
man.
gonna just do it. We're gonna do the drawing. We got everybody.
All right, guys. Good luck.
Oh wow, that didn't even give me like 2 seconds. I thought it was gonna like let me hit a button or something. That was very anticlimactic. My apologies.
Boom. CS. GG.
Come on down.
What is that, Casey?
Congratulations, man. Yeah.
It's
Like,
Casey
if it
Schmidt.
is, you
We'll
better
just
be
be
sending
sending
us
him a
something.
Casey Schmidt card so he can just send it back signed.
Imagine. Rob, thank you for the birthday wish. Appreciate that, bud. Congrats, CS. There's still one more prize out there, but yeah, bro, you can pick either Ricky's signed Bailey prospect card or my Bonds patch card.
Schmitty in the house.
Imagine.
Hey,
He's not confirming or denying right now.
Yeah.
He said Bonds, please. All right, bet. Reach out to Cody on X. I'll get it sent out this upcoming week.
X here, you can reach out. Where is it? Hold on.
Corey Seager, imagine.
Charlie County?
County.
I'm trying to think of CS.
Charlie
Cal
Sheen?
Stevenson in the house.
Like a my mind.
Cal Stevenson.
Let me get rid of the
that's a
happy early
favorite right there.
Happy early birthday, Rob.
All right, any of those, reach out. Charles Schwab in the house. Any of those socials, reach out on there.
Ricky's X handle is Ricky Clark 415.
Yes.
And if I get an Instagram DM from Casey Schmidt requesting his prize, then
just know that you're gonna get the card and a blank baseball with a pen. So you got my return address. So
yeah, with the return. Damn it, Dan! There better be 3 blank baseballs in that.
I got you guys.
Oh man. All right, man. Any of those socials, X, TikTok, Instagram, reach out to me on one of those.
This is coming to you, bud.
Because you're doing it with Dan's, you could reach out to him if you want. His is mine's Caveman Dan or
Caveman_Dan 97 if you want to just
wait, what did I miss? Am I sending this other card to Addy or Ed?
Ed.
Okay.
But you'd have
didn't
to
want
look
it.
through the chat. I didn't scroll.
Yeah.
So sweet. All right.
Cool. Good show and good giveaway.
All right, fun stuff. Thank you everybody for joining. I will be trying to at least put out hopefully one video next week. Next week's going to be a light week, I'm sure, with the holiday. I'll probably try and we're not going to do a live show, but I will probably try and at least get a video or 2 out. And then, as I said, we will get a live show the following week to do it. And then hopefully we will have the interview that week. So I will update everybody once I get it confirmed and who it is and all that good stuff. But we will, catch you guys on that one. So
Ed, reach out to Ricky. To Ricky.
Real quick, I'll just show you real fast so you can see. I have a Casey Schmidt first prospect card right here. You can take that. I have a graded Luciano first prospect card right here. You can have that. Or I have a Kyle Harrison autograph card. You can have that too. Choose one of those three. Hit me up on X. I'll give you one of those. And then producer Ryan, I'm sending you the other Luciano. It's the same exact one. I have 2 of them.
Good stuff.
We're so friendly.
I know. We just give up so much stuff.
We give out cards. We give out laughs. We give out all the fun stuff.
This is how we. This is how we buy our subs. Grant Cohn style.
I was just gonna say, what are we, Grant Cohn?
We got an extra like 50 comments just trying to guess Dan's age.
I don't know whether to be complimented or insulted that everyone thought I was in my 40s and 50s.
Hey, if you really wanna feel old, my wife teaches 3rd grade, and I walked in there one day and into her classroom, and she goes, "All right, everybody, how old do you think he is?" And everybody was like 80. All these like 8-year-olds. Yes, a bunch of 8-year-olds. And one of the kids called me fat, man. All right. Like,
jeez.
Kids are ruthless, man. The kid's like, "Yeah, you look just like my dad. He's kind of fat." It's like, dude.
Sign of intelligence. Thank you. How un-Asian. I am Mexican, my friend.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Oh man. Yeah, here we go. Share this video if you want more giveaways. We will definitely, as we hit the milestones, we will definitely do we'll try and whip together giveaways and stuff like that. At like 2K and things like that. This one we got to 1K, we said we would do it, and we were able to whip together like 3 different items to give away. So love doing it. Appreciate you guys. I don't know, you guys got anything to add before we bail?
Yeah, next giveaway, I'll give away a Joey Bart one if you guys want. Imagine.
Isn't that your prize possession?
Dude, look, on my desk, I've got the card and I got Joey Bart auto right here. Come on.
Oh, there we go.
Where's the Tom Murphy auto?
It's in the trash can with the rest of my dogs. You know what?
I've got a Barry Bonds up there. I got a Luis Matos, although technically that's my daughter's, so I can't really give away that. And I can't. Yeah, I'm not giving away the Bonds
can't do that one.
Sorry. We've got a Bruce Bochy one up there too.
I've got about 70 auto baseballs in the garage. I'll have to bust out one of these days.
We'll have to take a look. Hey, we're gonna do a trip in. I'm trying to get down there in June. We'll go catch some games. We'll see if we can collect some stuff from some players and see if we can just show up there with a bucket of balls. See if you guys will sign some things to give away on the show.
The trick is you got to bring your daughter. I'll bring my niece and just give them the balls with the pens.
Oh, that's how I got Matos' signature, man. Shameless. Exactly. You just hold the cute little 1-year-old.
Dude,
he couldn't help it.
You know what I did when I was younger? I went to the Niners training camp, and I thought, like, okay, if I look younger, maybe I'll get some to meet the players to get autographs. So I shaved my beard because I have like a round face, and I was like, maybe I'll look like I'm in high school. And it didn't work. They were like, "What's this like, grown?
Who's this creep?
Like, why is this grown Mexican dude trying to get autographs for?" I was like, "All right, bro."
That's awesome.
Meanwhile, I just look like a Cabbage Patch doll. I'm like, all
right. Addy gets it.
Yeah, for real, dude.
He gets it, man. All right. Good night, everybody. We're gonna get out of here. Hope you guys will have a great night. Hope you guys will have a great holiday. And hopefully we actually have something to talk about in the coming weeks with the Giants. Hopefully they make some moves. I won't be shocked if we see Kim here before too long, but we will see. So
I'm going to bed. I'm hallucinating, so I'm out.
yep. Take it easy, everyone.
All right, guys.